You not broke because you don't earn enough. You broke because your life is quietly expensive. And the dangerous part, you don't even notice it happening. It doesn't feel like a big mistake. It feels like normal life. It's the extra subscription you forgot to cancel. The upgrade that wasn't that much more. The things you bought once but keep paying for forever. Nothing feels extreme on its own, but together, they slowly drain every dollar you earn. So even when your income goes up, your bank account stays the same. Or worse, it falls behind. Most people think financial problems come from big decisions, bad investments, low salaries, major life mistakes, but that's rarely the case. The real problem is much quieter than that. It's built into your daily life, your habits, your environment, and unless you see it, you will keep earning more and wondering why it never feels like enough. Here's the invisible problem most people never stop to think about. They track the price, but they ignore the cost, because the number on the receipt, that's just the beginning. When you buy something, you're not just paying for it once. You're signing up to keep paying for it, over and over again. That cheap piece of furniture, it takes up space in your home. Space that you're repaying rent for every single month. That car upgrade, it's not just the monthly payment. It's insurance, maintenance, fuel, repairs for years, even small things, subscriptions, gadgets, clothes. They come with hidden costs, storage, attention, upkeep, and the biggest cost of all, opportunity. Every dollar tied up in stuff is a dollar that isn't growing, isn't investing, isn't buying you freedom. This is why people feel stuck, because they're remaking decisions based on what something costs today, not what it will quietly take from them over time. And once you start seeing money this way, you realize something uncomfortable. Most of what you own is more expensive than you ever thought. Here's the idea that changes everything. Everything you own charges you rent, not just financially, mentally, physically, and over time. Start with space. Every item you bring into your life takes up physical room, and space is never free. Whether you realize it or not, you're paying for it. Bigger apartment, bigger house, extra storage, that extra closet, that unused corner, that crowded garage. It all has a cost attached to it. Now layer in maintenance. Nothing you own stays new. It needs to be cleaned, repaired, updated, replaced. The more you own, the more time and money you spend just keeping things from falling apart. A single item might not seem like much, but multiply that across everything you own, and it becomes a constant drain. Then there's attention. This is the cost no one talks about. Every possession takes up a small piece of your mental bandwidth. You have to organize it, think about it, manage it, remember it exists. Clutter isn't just physical. It's cognitive, and the more clutter you have, the harder it is to focus, to think clearly, to feel and control. And finally, the biggest cost of all, opportunity. Every dollar locked into stuff is a dollar that isn't working for you. It's not invested, not compounding, not building your future. You didn't just buy that item. You chose it instead of financial freedom. When you see all four of these together, something clicks. You realize you're not just buying things. You're recommitting to paying for them. Every single day you continue to own them. At some point, this realization creates a turning point. Because once you see the true cost of everything you own, you can unsee it. And this is where most people misunderstand minimalism. They think it's about having less. Less stuff, less comfort, less enjoyment, but that's not the goal. Minimalism isn't about less, it's about control. Control over where your money goes. Control over what enters your life. Control over the systems that quietly drain you. Right now, most people don't have that control. Their spending is reactive, driven by habits, convenience, and emotion. They buy things because they're bored, stressed, or because everyone else is upgrading. And slowly, without realizing it, they build a lifestyle that owns them. Minimalism flips that. Instead of asking, can I afford this? You start asking, is this worth owning? That one question changes everything. Because it forces you to think beyond the price, beyond the moment, into the long-term impact on your time, your space, and your freedom. You stop optimizing for appearance and start optimizing for clarity. You stop chasing more and start protecting what you already have. And here's the paradox. When you take control like this, when you become intentional about what you allow into your life, you don't feel like you have less. You feel like you finally have enough. And that's the point where financial stability actually begins. Now that you understand where the money is leaking, let's fix it. Not with complicated strategies, not with extreme sacrifices, but by closing the leaks that quietly drain your financial life, because that's what most people are dealing with. Not a lack of income, but a system full of leaks. Let's go through them. Leak number 1, buying without usage clarity. Most purchases happen with optimism, not reality. You imagine the best version of yourself, the person who cooks every day, works out consistently, reads every night. But your actual behavior, it rarely matches that vision, so you end up buying for a life you don't live. And when something doesn't get used, its cost doesn't disappear. It becomes waste. The fix is simple, but powerful. Before buying anything, ask, how often will I actually use this? Not ideally, not occasionally. Realistically, because usage determines value, and without clarity, spending becomes guesswork. Leak number 2. Keeping things you wouldn't buy. Look around your space. If everything disappeared tomorrow, how much of it would you actually buy again? Be honest, a surprising amount of what you own is there by default, not by choice. Old purchases, forgotten items, things tied to past versions of you. And they don't just sit there for free. They take up space. They take up attention. They create friction in your environment. Holding on to things you wouldn't buy is like paying rent on decisions you no longer agree with. The solution: let go, because financial clarity often starts with physical clarity. Leak number 3. Upgrading for dopamine. This is one of the most expensive habits people have. Nothing is broken. Nothing is missing. But something new comes out, and suddenly what you have feels outdated. Not because it stopped working, but because your brain craves novelty. Upgrades feel like progress, but most of the time they are just expensive distractions. The difference between wealthy and struggling individuals is often this: one replaces when necessary. The other replaces when bored. If it still works, and resisting unnecessary upgrades over time. That alone can save tens, if not hundreds of thousands. Leak number 4. Easy spending environments. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your intentions ever will. If spending is frictionless, you will spend. Saved cards, one-click checkout, endless promotions. Everything is designed to make spending feel effortless. And saving, that usually requires effort, discipline, and thought. That imbalance is the problem, because humans follow the path of least resistance. So instead of relying on willpower, change the environment. Remove saved payment methods. Uninstall shopping apps. Create delays before purchases. At the same time, automate saving. Make investing happen before you even see the money. Because when saving is easy and spending is hard, everything starts to shift. Leak number 5. Unlimited accumulation. Without limits, things expand. Closets fill, drawers overflow, digital subscriptions pile up, and because there's no defined boundary, there's no reason to stop. Most people don't have a spending problem. They have no stopping rule. Minimalists solve this differently. They create constraints: a maximum number of items, a fixed budget, a one-in, one-out rule. These limits force decisions, because every new addition requires something else to leave. And that friction, it protects your money automatically. Leak number 6. Buying before testing. Excitement is a terrible decision maker. People buy equipment before they build habits. They invest in hobbies before proving interest. They commit before experimenting. And when the excitement fades, the item remains. Inexpensive, permanent. A better approach: test first, rent it, borrow it, try it. Let reality prove whether the purchase is justified. Because most interests don't last. And it's far cheaper to discover that early than after you've already paid for it. Leak number 7. Hidden ecosystem costs. Some purchases don't come alone. They bring an entire system with them. You don't just buy a car. You buy insurance, fuel, maintenance, repairs. You don't just buy a home gym. You buy space, flooring, accessories. These are ecosystem costs, and they are often bigger than the original purchase. This is where people underestimate everything. They see the price, but not the chain reaction. Before any major purchase, ask, what else does this require? Because the true cost is never just the item. It's everything that comes with it. Leak number 8. No definition of enough. This is the silent trap. If you never define what enough looks like, you will never feel like you have it. Your income goes up, your lifestyle follows, and no matter how much you earn, it never feels sufficient, because the target keeps moving. Minimalism solves this by creating a finish line. You decide what's enough. What kind of home, what kind of lifestyle, what level of comfort, and once that line is defined, everything beyond it becomes optional. And optional money, that's where wealth is built. Leak number 9. Confusing wealth with stuff. This is one of the biggest misconceptions. People assume that visible consumption equals success: nice car, big house, expensive items. But those things often represent spending, not wealth. Real wealth is invisible. It has savings, investments, freedom, the ability to walk away from something that doesn't serve you. But when you tie your identity to what you own, you're forced to keep spending to maintain that image. And that keeps you stuck, because the more you own, the more you have to maintain. True wealth isn't what people see. It's what gives you options. Leak number 10. Resetting instead of maintaining. Most people approach change in extremes. They overspend for months, then suddenly try to fix everything at once. Big cleanups, budget, big restrictions. It feels productive, but it doesn't last. Because the system never changed. Minimalists don't rely on resets. They rely on maintenance. Small, consistent adjustments, regular check-ins, ongoing awareness, continuous control, instead of fixing everything once. They prevent problems from building up, and that's the difference. Because financial stability isn't created through big moments. It's created through small, repeated decisions that quietly move you forward over time. When you step back and look at all 10 leaks together, you start to see the pattern. It's not one big mistake. It's dozens of small ones repeated daily, and once you fix those leaks, you don't need extreme discipline. You don't need a massive income because your system finally works, and when your system works, money stops disappearing and starts staying. This is where everything shifts, because if you try to fix all of this with willpower, you will fail. Not because you're weak, but because willpower is unreliable. Some days you're refocused, other days you're tired, stressed, distracted, and in those moments, you fall back into old patterns. That's why the goal isn't to become more disciplined. The goal is to build systems that make discipline unnecessary. Instead of deciding every day whether to save, you automate it. Money moves before you can spend it. Investments happen without effort. Savings grow in the background. You don't rely on motivation, you rely on structure. The same applies to spending. Instead of constantly resisting temptation, you reduce exposure to it. Fewer apps, fewer triggers, fewer decisions. Because every decision drains energy. And the more decisions you remove, the easier consistency becomes. But there's a second shift that matters just as much. Moving from consumption to intentionality. Most people spend reactively. They see something, they want it. Buy it, there's no pause, no filter, no evaluation. Intentionality breaks that pattern. You don't ask, do I want this? You ask, does this improve my life enough to justify its cost? That question creates space. And in that space, you regain control, because now every dollar has a purpose, not just spent, but directed. And when your money is directed with intention, instead of driven by impulse, you don't just spend less. You start building a life that actually feels aligned. And that's where stability turns into momentum. Your life isn't expensive by accident. It was designed that way. Not by you, at least not consciously, but by the systems around you. Every app is built to make spending easier. Every advertisement is designed to create desire. Every upgrade cycle is engineered to make what you have feel outdated. You're constantly being nudged toward more convenience, more comfort, more consumption. And if you don't question it, you slowly build a life that requires all of it to sustain. A life where your income has no room to breathe. No margin, no flexibility, no freedom. But here's the good news. If your life was designed one way, it can be redesigned another, with intention, with awareness, with control. You don't need to escape the system completely. You just need to stop following it blindly. Because the moment you start designing your life on your own terms, deciding what's worth keeping, what's worth paying for, and what isn't, everything changes. Not overnight, but permanently. And that's how you stop feeling broke, even before your income changes. By building a life that costs less to live and gives you more room to actually live it.